Hi, friends. Welcome back to Brianna's Bookshelf. So today we are starting out a new vlog, and I am going to be vlogging the first half of March because I will be doing Realmathon. In case you're not aware of it, Realmathon is a readathon that was started by Covers with Cassidy, and I believe it's in its 5th year now. And this will be my first year joining. I'm super excited to get into it. It is like very community based, it's team based, it's a little bit competitive, and it's kind of centered around some D&D and video game type themes. So super fun. I cannot wait. And I have decided to join the mage team. So go team mages. And hello, my fellow mages, if any of you are watching. I don't have my full TBR picked out for the month yet because I feel like I want to film the first part of it, and then I'll see if I decide to film the second half of the month in a vlog as well. But I will plan the TBR for that later. At the moment, I just have a couple books picked out, and we'll see how much I could get through because I know I'm going to have a very busy couple of weeks coming up with work. And I am, in fact, working all of next weekend, which is very unfortunate. But I at least have March 1st off today so that we can get started with our Realmathon plans. For my TBR for Realmathon, I am going to be reading Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. This will complete our team's prompt of read a book with a school setting. So I'm very excited. I've actually already started this. I have already been loving Katabasis, so I'm so excited to continue. And I'll have to check on our other Realmathon prompts and see what else this will fulfill to get some points for our team. The next book on my TBR, I'm not totally certain yet if I want to read this, but I got the idea and then I couldn't get it out of my mind. But I'm thinking of rereading The Secret History. This is one of my absolute favorite books, and it has been quite a while since I've read it. And this would, of course, also fulfill our team's prompt of a book with a school setting. And yeah, I've just really been wanting to reread it and annotate it. It's a little chunkier, so that's not super ideal for getting the most of books read for a readathon. But it has been calling out to me, and I feel like it fits more with the colder months. I don't think I would want to read this as I get closer to summer. So it kind of feels like now is the time. But I'll see once I finish Katabasis how I feel about this. And then the last book I have picked out for my TBR for this vlog is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. In case you haven't heard, this year I am running a quarterly book club alongside Brooklyn from Brooklyn's Library, Angel from Angel Can't Read, and Lauren from Happy Haunts Library. We're calling it the Classic Scares Club, and we will be reading a horror classic every quarter of the year. So for our first book, we are reading The Picture of Dorian Gray, and we are going to be discussing this in a live show on Brooklyn's channel. I believe it's on March 22nd, I want to say. I will, of course, post that to my channel so you can see the date if you're interested in reading along and joining us for the live discussion. This vlog will probably be going up right close to that weekend, so I definitely want to read this and get this annotated and all ready for our book discussion. I honestly am not sure what prompts this could potentially fill for Realmathon. I have read this before. This is a reread, so I know it can fulfill at least one because that is one of the kind of overall bonus prompts is I think it's like a try it again or something, like it's a reread or give an author a second chance, something like that. So I know this would fit for a reread. And yeah, I'm excited to read it again and annotate this time around and discuss with some friends and hopefully some of you guys as well. Those are the 3 books I have picked out so far. I'll likely be adding another audiobook or ebook in the mix as well, and I'll let you know when I decide on those. But without further ado, let's get into some thoughts on Katabasis since I have already started. And I'm close to halfway through actually already, so I want to give y'all some thoughts. So I am really enjoying Katabasis. I think it's just perfectly done dark academia in R.F. Kuang's classic style, where it feels very elevated. It feels like it's really making you think. There's different themes to discuss. There is a lot of references to other literary works, and there is a lot of discussion specifically around kind of the toxicity of the education industry. In the book, we're following Alice, and she is a magic student at Cambridge. So she is studying to be a magician, and she is like entirely devoted to being an academic. That is her whole life. That's what she lives and breathes. And she is under the tutelage of a professor named Professor Grimes. And he is well known to be like the worst professor to work with, who people always have issues with. And we're seeing a lot of her struggles to work alongside him and how she kind of ignores what other people are saying or tries to like kind of be above it. Like, oh, he doesn't bother me in the way that you all are saying. And it's very, very interesting. There's also amazing quotes, and there is a journey to hell in this book. Today, I am planning to read more of this. I'm very excited. I also am going to do some baking. I am making some pecan rolls for my friend. So I'm about to do that, and it's probably going to take a long time. And I was honestly so excited about it earlier, but then I went for a run, and now I'm exhausted, and I don't really want to make them anymore. But we're still going to do it because I've already promised them. So we're going to pull through. We're going to do some baking. I also want to do some knitting. My knitting project is not in this room right now, so I'll have to show you a little bit later. But I have been getting into knitting, and I'm currently working on a Sophie scarf. I actually just already finished one. I made one for my mom. I wish I had taken a picture of it before I gave it to her, but I didn't. But that is okay. I made her a pink one, and I had enough leftover materials to make another one for myself with the same yarn. So I'm making a pink Sophie scarf for myself as well, and I'm just having a ton of fun knitting. So that's one of the things that you can expect to see in this vlog as well. Hello vlog, I'm here with a reading update. I have officially finished Katabasis by R.F. Kuang, and I absolutely loved it. So I'm definitely going to be giving this book 5 stars. It had definitely all of the dark academia vibes. I really enjoyed the aspect of the descent to hell. That's something that I always kind of enjoy in media or think is interesting. And I know that this book was getting a lot of like negative reviews because people feel like it's boring or that it's very negative in tone, but I feel like that is done very purposefully because in this book we're following Alice, who is studying magic at, I think, Cambridge University, and she is like an extremely devoted student. Like, she wants to do absolutely anything to be the best. Like, she's just a perfectionist, basically. And she works under Professor Grimes, who is extremely cutthroat and well known to be like one of the hardest professors in the university to work with. But she actually takes pride on this. She wants to work with someone difficult and be pushed to the limit. And his only other advisee is Peter, who is Alice's kind of academic rival because of this situation where they're both under the same advisor. And Professor Grimes is constantly like pushing them kind of against each other. They're never like outright saying things competitively to each other, but there's definitely a lot of tension around that. And they both end up going on this journey to hell to retrieve Professor Grimes after he dies in an accident. And basically, Alice is extremely depressed throughout the majority of this book. And it's definitely because of the way she pushes herself, the state that she's in with like only having her value through academic success. And I think that the way it's done in this book, the way that depression is portrayed and also other mental health issues, I found very excellent and true to my own experience. I don't find myself to be super similar to Alice in that I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, and I can be somewhat of an overachiever at times, but I feel like the majority of the time I'm pretty easygoing. So I couldn't necessarily relate to all of her character, but there were so many things about both her and Peter that really hit home. And there were so many good quotes in this book. I tabbed so much of it. Let me see if I can find a good quote to read y'all so you can kind of appreciate the magic. Ooh, okay, this is a good one that is a little bit on the dark side. This is about depression, so trigger warning. I don't think it's like terribly triggering, but for me personally, but just FYI, a quote about depression. Aristotle's argument about how any living being, even the most primitive organism, was animated by an idea of the good. Even the plant turned its face toward the sun. Even the tiniest ant sought food, the brainless worm sought soil. It was also easy for living creatures, all except people like her, who had a knack for seeking only that which made them miserable. And yeah, that really hit. Not that I think that that's necessarily describing me, but I can definitely understand and relate in some ways or see that in other people. And I found it extremely interesting. So I would highly recommend this book, especially if you feel like you are okay with reading through the lens of a main character who has depression and that you feel like you could get something out of that. I think this is excellent. It also has great commentary on just kind of the academic world in general and the power that professors hold over students. So excellent, beautiful work by R.F. Kuang as usual. I don't think I've ever given any of her books less than 5 stars that I can remember. But I have not yet read Yellowface. That's the only one I haven't read yet because I'm not a big like fiction girly, just like plain fiction, but I do plan to read it at some point. So hopefully I'll give that one 5 stars as well. I also wanted to give you an update on my knitting, if anyone cares. No one asked, but I'm going to show you anyway. Let me get it organized. Here's my knitting. It looks very strange, I'm sure, but it's going to become a scarf that has like tapered ends. That's the Sophie scarf. It's a very popular knitting pattern. So if you knit, I'm sure you've seen this before, and then it's going to come to a taper at this end as well. It'll be a cute little tie in the front situation, and I'm very excited about this cutie little pink color and where I'm at with my knitting progress. Also, I must show you that my yarn is being held in a bowl that my friend made for me. I have the most talented friends. It's crazy, but she made this yarn holding bowl. Shout out Ashlyn, and it looks like an axolotl, and I'm obsessed with it. She gave this to me for my birthday. Incredible, incredible gift. I also did start reading a book on my Kindle. I started Wilde Reverence by Rebecca Ross. And I didn't realize it is a standalone and also that it takes place in the same world as Divine Rivals. So if you enjoy that series, I would recommend this for sure. I'm about 20% of the way in so far, and I'm really enjoying it. It is actually from the perspective of a goddess in this world, whereas Divine Rivals was following mortals in this realm. And it's very, very interesting. I really am enjoying the descriptions of the gods' realms. There's like the underworld and the skyward, I think is what they call like the upper realms. And yeah, it's super interesting. I'm not really sure yet what prompts it's going to accomplish for Realmathon because I just kind of picked it on a whim, and I don't own the physical book, so I don't know if it has foiling on the cover, and it does not take place at a school, so no bonus points for me. But if nothing else, it will fulfill a book that I didn't buy since I'm just borrowing it on Kindle. So I also would like to start another physical book today. I usually always have like one physical book and one ebook going because I love to read an ebook like when I get into bed and I don't want to have the light on anymore. But yeah, I think for the physical book, I was really considering The Secret History before. Like when I filmed this intro, I was pretty certain that was going to be in the lineup. But I think I've changed my mind. I feel like I don't really want to read or do 2 rereads back to back. And I think that at the end of this vlog, I'm going to be reading The Picture of Dorian Gray right before my live show for the Classic Scares Club. And that is also a reread. So I kind of want to spread it out more. I feel like I might read The Secret History later this month or maybe next month. I do have a few things in mind, but I'm probably going to wait until later tonight to see and just do a little mood read. TBD what my next read for Realmathon is, but super happy to have completed Katabasis. Hello friends, long time no update. It has been over a week since I last talked to you, I think. Oopsie. Yeah, it's currently Friday, March 13th. Unfortunately, I have not done that much reading. I guess actually my reading has been okay, but I've been really bad about updating you guys. But there's a reason, okay? It's because I had the busiest work week last week. Like I literally was working for 10 days in a row and doing like a ton of manual labor and stuff for this event for my work, which actually was kind of fun, but it was super exhausting. And now I'm on my second day off and I'm just finally now recuperated enough to talk to you all about the books that I've read since last time. So I think last time I talked to you, I was still debating what to read. Oops. I ended up deciding to read Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. And I made the mistake of never giving you guys an update. So this is a final wrap up of this book, even though I never gave you a midway update. I'm so sorry about that. This is like such an OG booktube book, I feel like. When I first started watching booktube, everyone was reading this book or was into it. This is like a young adult fantasy book. And my decision for rating is going to be 3 stars, which I feel a little bit bad about because I feel like this is such a widely loved book. I was really hoping that I was going to give this 5 stars. I feel like everyone does and everyone's obsessed with this. And unfortunately, that was just not my experience. I do think this is a good book, but I feel like I just wish I had read this earlier, honestly. I think if I had read this even just a few years ago, I would have enjoyed it more. But at this point, I'm pretty phased out of my YA era. I'm not enjoying that many YA books these days. And this just definitely felt young to me. I will say, I think it's a really good book overall. It took me a while to get into it. And then I also made the mistake of starting to listen to the audio fairly early on, which I feel like I'm just not a very good audiobook listener. And I usually have to be fairly invested into the book first before I try to switch to audio, or else I will just simply not care about anything that's happening. And that was the case here. I read a ton of the like kind of middle section on audio and was just not really caring about any of it. Then I would say about the last third quarter, I definitely got hooked back in. Essentially, this is about Laszlo Strange, and he lives in this town like on the edge of this desert kind of area, and he is a librarian. And he's always been obsessed with like magic and stories and all of that whimsical stuff. And there is this city that's supposed to be across the desert that is called Weep. And it is like this magical, forgotten city. No one knows what happened to the people there. They used to communicate with his city and other places, but they just kind of fell off the map and went silent. No one has tried to travel there. Or I guess people have, but they haven't survived. But he ends up being able to go on a journey to find out more about Weep with some other people from his town. And the story just gets going from there. It's very whimsical for sure. There's like different types of like dream magic, and there is moths involved, which is fun. There is a little bit of a romance as well. And I would say that once we got fairly steeped into the story and the romance started to be introduced, I think that was what got my interest more. in the beginning, I just didn't care all of that much, to be honest. And I thought the little young adult romance was very cute. And it did go on a good cliffhanger, so I would definitely be interested in picking up the second book, but not like a huge priority because, again, I just enjoyed it. I wasn't obsessed with it. And a wee bit of a disappointment just because I thought I was sure I was going to love it, but not a big deal. It was still a good time. Then, surprise, I also have a second book I've read since I last talked to you. I was reading on my Kindle Wilde Reverence by Rebecca Ross, and I loved it, you guys. I did not think I was going to finish it as fast as I did, but it was so good. I'm wavering right now between a 4 and a 4.5 star rating. I'm kind of thinking 4.5 stars. I think that's what we're going to give Wilde Reverence. I have read Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross, and I did enjoy Divine Rivals, but Ruthless Vows, that was just okay. I didn't love it. Wilde Reverence takes place in the same world, but with sort of a different set of characters. And I love when books do that. I love getting like the callback to other characters and other aspects of the world. It does follow a goddess and a mortal human man and their connection since when they meet when the boy is young and the goddess is quite young, and then their connection from there. And as the goddess gets her powers, we kind of see her coming into herself, learning more about herself, and potentially having feelings for this human boy. And I thought it was just simply a beautiful, beautiful story. It is extremely well written. The descriptions are incredible, both of scenery, of the characters, of their emotions. It's very much giving yearning. It's giving classic love story. No spice, really. I mean, there's like a tiny bit of closed door perhaps, but yeah, no spice. It's just pure romantic yearning and really, really good mythology. And I loved it. Honestly, I have no notes. I just didn't get that 5-star feeling, but I did absolutely love it. And this is now my new favorite Rebecca Ross book. And I'm kind of debating if I might need a physical copy because I really, really loved it. I'm not sure. Maybe if I see it on sale or secondhand. But yeah, I loved it. I'm going to be starting The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde because I'm reading it as part of the Classic Scares book club, along with Angel and Brooklyn and Lauren. And I'm very excited. This will be a reread for me, but this time I will be fully annotating it. So we are now going to jump into that. And I can't wait to see what I think of it this time around. Hello vlog. It is time for an update because I have started The Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm very excited to be rereading this, and I am annotating it this time around, which has been going really, really well. I would love to give y'all a little look into my annotation because I'm always so curious about how others annotate. And for me, it's honestly a little bit different for each book, but I love to do like kind of theme-based annotating. So I've got like my different colors and my key here, which I have not written everything in because I didn't have a pen when I put it together. But I'm like, my thought is kind of that I'm doing orange for references to like knowledge and learning. And then yellow, which is pretty hard to see there, is about the self for like personhood, things like that. And then pink is for love. Blue is for beauty, and green is for the natural world, which honestly, there hasn't been too much of that. I probably shouldn't have made that one, but there was some really nice descriptions of nature in the first chapter, and then I feel like that kind of died out, but maybe we'll have more later on. I don't remember, honestly. But so I'm about a third of the way in. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the abrupt end to my last clip. My phone sadly died. She is no longer with us, and it took me a little while to get a new one, but I have gotten a new phone, which is very exciting. So hopefully my camera quality is a little bit better now, and I don't know, we're still testing the mic setup, so we'll see how this goes. But I did get a mic to go with this phone because it has a different like plug-in system, but we'll see. Hopefully it sounds good. And I have finished The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I really, really enjoyed my reread. The first time that I read this, I did give it 5 stars, and I think I'm going to stick with that 5 stars. I stand behind it. I feel like this is definitely the most enjoyable classic I have read to date. I just feel like it's extremely accessible for a classic. It is extremely entertaining. I find so many parts of this just hilarious. Like, it's very funny. The themes and the conversations in this book are just so timeless, and in some ways almost like a little, I could see where they would feel like a little bit overly obvious. But I just think that that's one of its strong suits in a way, is how clear the themes are, is part of what makes it so accessible to read. So, without getting into spoilers, this is about Dorian Gray, who is a young man living in London. And this is, I'm not exactly sure what the time period is. Honestly, I always get mixed up about like 17, 1800s type of time period, something around then. And he starts off as this very young, impressionable young man, and he is extremely, extremely attractive. And he has kind of like a magnetism to him, so everyone is attracted to him and his personality. And he becomes friends with Basil Hallworth, and Basil is a painter. And so Dorian becomes the subject of Basil's paintings. And he ends up sitting for Basil to have his portrait painted. And while he's friends with Basil, he does meet Lord Henry. And Lord Henry is one of Basil's friends who is quite an interesting character. He is one of the more interesting characters in this book, I would say. He's has a lot of influence, and he's also quite the hedonistic person. He has his own philosophies on life. He's not afraid to share them, and he fully believes in pleasure over any sort of pursuit of the greater good, and he's not afraid to share that. And he's also quite funny. He has a lot of little witticisms and things that make you laugh, but also he says some just like terrible sexist things. He's just like a very over the top character, and he does start to influence Dorian Gray to go down a different path in life and become a little bit more involved with some of the darker scenes in London. Um, he influences him to become more self-centered, to seek out his own pleasure, and all that kind of stuff. And so we follow Dorian Gray as he grows older and continues down this path. And there's a lot of questions about the soul. What is the impact of one's sins or wrongdoings upon the soul? How does that impact you as a person? There is so much discussion of beauty and youth in this book. And honestly, it just has some really beautiful quotes. As you can see, I have tabbed the heck out of this book. And I really am excited about the fact that I have so many good quotes to go back and look at. So if you're watching this vlog the day that this comes out on Friday, tomorrow is going to be our live discussion for the Classic Scares Club. So if you're interested in hearing my more in-depth thoughts on the picture of Dorian Gray and in discussion with some of my friends, we will be doing that over on Brooklyn's channel, Brooklyn's Library. So please tune into that. It will be at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which I believe is noon Eastern time. So don't miss out on that if you are curious at all. But I would love to find a few quotes to read to you to express some of the aspects of this book that I really enjoy. All right, here's a few of Henry's little thoughts on life, which are quite funny, I think, and very, yeah, just very over the top. So Lord Henry says, I never approve or disapprove of anything now. It is an absurd attitude to take towards life. We are not sent into the world to air our moral prejudices. And then on marriage, later in that same conversation, he says, besides, every experience is of value, and whatever one may say against marriage, it is certainly an experience. Yeah, so he's very cynical about anything that's kind of good and proper, and he's not afraid to share that, and it's quite entertaining. Ooh, here's a good one. This is another of Lord Henry's little quips. Honestly, so many of the good quotes are from Lord Henry. He's a really ridiculous, over the top character, but he has a lot to say for sure. So, talking about youth, he says, "Can you remember any great error that you committed in your early days, Duchess?" "A great many, I fear," she cried. "Then commit them over again," he said gravely. "To get back one's youth, one has merely to repeat one's follies." And then, "Nowadays, most people die of a sort of creeping common sense and discover when it is too late that the only things one never regrets are one's mistakes." So again, not the best life advice, but there is something to be said about the things that he discusses. And yeah, certainly not life advice I would live by, but interesting to contemplate and very much fits in with the discussions within this book. So this is definitely my favorite classic. I just really, really enjoy this book. I think it's really easy to read if you have not read it and you are interested in picking up more classics. I could not recommend this highly enough. I think it's extremely easy to read. It's extremely captivating. It did not take me long at all to read this. And with that, I will be closing out my first vlog of Realmathon, as it has been a little past the first 2 weeks of the month. And I will be hopefully picking up some new books and starting part 2. So hopefully I will see you all later for that. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.